Sat Sri Akal, Namaste, hello and welcome to the show ਜਿਹਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਹੈ The Truth Tribe। ਮੈਂ ਹਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਹੋਸਟ ਰਵੀ ਤੂਰ ਤੇ ਅੱਜ ਸਾਡੇ ਨਾਲ ਨੇ ਇੱਕ ਸਪੈਸ਼ਲ ਗੈਸਟ ਜਿਨ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਨਾਮ ਹੈ ਹਰਪਾਲ ਸਿੰਘ ਸੰਧੂ, also known as Coach Harp। Harpal ji, welcome to the show।
Thank you, Namaste, Sat Sri Akal।
Harpal ji, to start off the show, ਤੁਹਾਡਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਰੈਜ਼ਿਊਮੇ ਹੈ ਇਹ ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਇੰਪ੍ਰੈਸਿਵ ਹੈ। ਤੁਸੀਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਫੁੱਟਬਾਲ ਖੇਡਦੇ ਰਹੇ ਹੋ, ਤੁਸੀਂ ਫੁੱਟਬਾਲ ਕੋਚਿੰਗ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋ, ਤੁਹਾਡੀ ਇੱਕ ਆਰਗੇਨਾਈਜੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਹੁਣ Coach Harp। In 2017, you co-founded SASTA, which is South Asian Sports Development Association. ਤੁਸੀਂ recently ਇੱਕ book ਵੀ launch ਕੀਤੀ ਹੈ, The Man Behind. You are an avid community worker. In your words, quickly, who is Harpal Singh Sandhu and what do you really do?
Who is Coach Harp or Harpal Sandhu? I'm a servant leader. What that means, servant leader, it doesn't happen over time, happens over a period of time. I'm an immigrant who came over to Canada. I was born in India, in London. I came into Canada in 1975, dealt with a lot of racism growing up in Vancouver. I also dealt with a lot of issues learning the school system here, especially when my family spoke Punjabi quite a bit. So I found it was very hard to pick up the language. From there, growing up, moved into different areas. Then I started playing football at the age of 12 because I wanted to find something. Then I started playing football. I really enjoyed the game. I played up to senior. I played high school community football. Then I also ended up playing football to a semi-pro level when I was a little bit older. Mm-hmm. And then from there, my knee started hurting. Then from there, I wanted to find something different. And that's where I went into high school coaching. And from high school coaching, what I realized was that there's a lot of work we need to do. So through the years, I work with a lot of high-risk youth.
High-risk youth. Would you like to elaborate on what that really defines? Like, who is really a high-risk youth?
High-risk looking on they're like from broken home families. There are children that maybe have a single parent, like a mother or a father raising them. What that means is high-risk youth, meaning they have a tendency of getting into trouble with the law, or they need more guidance. They're not bad kids. It's just that more people need to understand some of them are missing adults in their lives. So as a football coach, I wasn't just a football coach. I played a big part in their development of their teenage years to their adulthood too. And some of them even remember me as their coach. I've coached so many kids from 2009 to about 2018.
Very cool. So question, let's start off with the football aspect of it first. How do you think in your understanding of it, how has football helped you and shaped you to be who you are today? How has that impacted your life and shaped you as a human today?
Well, to me, playing, I just want to make sure we're not talking about football in Europe. We're talking about American football, Canadian football, which we don't use our feet. We actually throw the ball. How did it shape my life? It taught me how to work with the team. It taught me how to be on the sidelines, how to cheer your team. You play many facets as a player. There's the people that are on the field. Then there are people that are on the sidelines. Then there are people that are also helping you develop your skills too. I learned a thing called brotherhood playing through football. You know, there's tall men on the field, and they're all going for one common goal. You may not like the person who you're beside, but guess what? As a teammate, you got to come together, make sure we get it done. Now, where does that work in life now? There's so many skills that we learned. We learned how to deal with adversity. We learned how to deal with reaching a common goal. And we all come out, practice every single day. When I used to play, is why are we coming out to practice? We got to understand, practice makes perfect. You can't just come off your house from your couch and say you're going to start playing. No, in football, you got to earn your position. And you got to also realize that there's someone else there to take your position away from you too.
Yeah, it's in ways it's pretty much like real life, but just on field. But the set of rules is pretty much what applies in real life kind of applies on the field of football as well. So question on that, would you have a story that you can share with us of a high moment during your football career as a player or as a coach on the field? And what did that teach you, whether it's a high moment or a lowest moment?
I remember when I used to play football for Richmond Minor Football League, play for the Richmond Rough Riders, I would have been about 12 or 13, where we won our first city championship. It was a very cool feeling, like you're little and you're seeing the opponents, so like 6'2", 6'3", is very intimidating. They're playing music to intimidate you, right? And then whatever team's prepared to win, they'll win the game. So that was a high moment as a player. And then from a coach's perspective, is to see an underdog team that struggled every year to even get 4 to 5 players to come out to practice. It took us about 2-3 years to get 40 people. People are going to say, whoa, coach, 40 people on a team. Yeah, it's tough. But guess what? It's getting them to come together. And in 2013, we're proud to say we got the school their very first city championship in 45 years. You know why? Because we care. And children understand that. That's what they're looking for in adults. Do they really care for us? Are they really going to help us? So that would have been my highest moment as a coach.
Mm-hmm. There's a very interesting point you raised there. It's showing that you care. How do you show that you care? Like, what are some aspects that go into it? What is a conversation that happens behind the scenes? When you're losing with big margins, what do you go and tell those kids? What's the verbatim? I would like to know.
What they do is they look at you as a coach. I've been on sidelines where you're losing 80-0, 70-0, 60-0. Now you tell me, as just a person, how would you handle that, right? As a coach, they're looking at your attitude. They're looking at what you're going to do. A lot of guys will say your team sucks. You get all the negativities. But you as a coach need to understand what it takes to develop a team. And then from there, what happens is you'll get a few leaders that will follow you and will help you with the vision. In order to become a champion, all 24 players need to buy into that idea. Every game is the next play. But then what it comes down to is, how do you handle yourself as an adult in front of these kids? Do you yell at them? Do you uplift them? Do you encourage them? A lot of the kids want to see results. And through the results is when you start getting the first win. And then you feed off that momentum. Now you got them up to phase 2. Then they get another win. You get them on phase 3. That's the highs of the game, is now they got good momentum going into something.
Yeah, it's almost like when somebody forgets what it feels like to win, and then they have a taste of it again, and they're like, "Oh, this is what it feels like. Let's work towards it, because this is what good feels like." Very, very interesting. Let's switch gears for a minute. So, from football coaching and playing, you shifted to life coaching, and how did that change came about? What was the moment you're like, you know what, this is something that needs my attention, and this is something that is my calling, and I need to do that? What was that moment, and what was the thought process behind it?
I don't mind hitting that, but one thing is, a lot of people know there's a difference between a life coach and an athlete coach. A life coach will deal with a lot of stuff, with everyday mundane stuff, trying to get people motivated, trying to get people to get there. I chose not to be a life coach. I decided to be more a coach who has a track record of working with athletes, because their mindset, let's say, for example, if I tell you right now, go do 10 laps and it's snowing outside, you're probably going to say, no way, right? It's the physical discipline of an athlete, right? So in business, I see the same mindset. And don't get me wrong, there are some people in everyday life that do need a little bit of help, a little bit of guidance, stuff like that. But what it comes down to is your mind needs to be prepared. There's a coach for everything. There's a business coach, there's a life coach, there's an athlete coach. You would consider me more of a coach that has lots of experience with working with high caliber athletes. And some people said to me, Coach, would you coach? Would you help me coach? I said, how would you like my assistance? They said, we want to do a business plan. We want to do something. I like working with his actionable deliverables behind it. Not with somebody who's saying, good job, keep it up. Because there's no deadlines to that. You know, the thing is, we're always looking for results. How do you move someone? Here's my question. How do you move yourself? Right? And then from there, a lot of actionable variables start coming into place. A lot of other people start seeing that. A lot of organizations start seeing that. They ask you, what is your magic? There's no your magic. Just be yourself. Right?
Yeah. No, that's a pretty valid point. So now I'm thinking about it, and there's a question on that. Is there a particular instance or an example that you can share with us where you helped a particular athlete to achieve whatever their goals were in that moment of time? Sort of, what was the scenario? What was the outcome? And how did you go about it?
Well, I'll mention a few athletes, but I can't really mention their name. But one of the athletes I was doing in high school, he didn't really want to play. But I asked him, just do it for me. Just stay in there. And one of the athletes ended up being one of the main persons who won us the city championship. The same athlete went on to play junior bantam football. The same athlete ended up playing for the BC Lions. It's his fourth year now.
Oh, wow.
BC Lions are a professional team. I still keep in touch with them. Then there are a few other athletes that wanted to go play in the South in the States. It's the same thing as you get them ready to get to the next level. So I'm not just like a positional coach where you're like a high school coach and that's it. I've actually been on the journey of some of the players that I've coached. And I still keep in contact with them because remember, it's a life cycle of that athlete, right? How do you build that relationship? You know, there's a few times where they give me tickets to come watch them play. There's also a few times where they've actually asked me to come out on the field. Now, as a coach, is that not a highlight moment of a coach? So these are the relationships that you build. Same thing of this style goes into business. It goes into a lot of stuff I do in the community too. You know, I'm very proud of the relationships that I'm building with the communities.
That's amazing. I think that's a good segue into what I wanted to ask you next. The South Asian Sports Development Association, SASTA. You co-founded, I believe it was in 2017. Tell us more about how did the idea came about and sort of what is the objective of that organization right now?
Why I created SASTA was I was one of the main individuals that helped started a football program in the Northeast. So I needed to figure out on how to piece up their training. So if this program was not developed in the Northeast, then they would have been going to the other school which they've been teaming up with, you know. And being a founder of the football program called Nelson Mandela in Calgary was a very interesting endeavors for me, considering there's a lot of principals, coaches said to me, you would be the perfect guy to go help start that from scratch and build it up right to the top. And one of the things is I had 4 players from that school interested in training. So I had to figure out how can I build a nonprofit organization and how to get them training over Genesis Center. So I went over Genesis Center. I had 4 kids. And then from there, we went from another, like a gym, where I took them from Genesis Center, then took them to another gym. Then from there, I took them to track and field over Rotary Park, which was powered by SASTA. And then from there, what ended up happening is we went from 4 athletes. Remember, these are South Asian athletes now. We went from 4 to 60.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. An expand of what? 3 months. And if you actually look at the SASTA platform, you will see the four I'm talking about. Then you'll see another picture with 60. Remember, these are South Asian students that wanted to play the game of football.
Question on that. In your understanding of the sport and the understanding of the South Asian community, there's a lot more influx of new students coming in, new families coming in. How do you plan, or how does SASTA plan on incorporating those South Asian families into the sport of football? How do you go about that?
So what we're looking at doing with SASTA is SASTA, I want to develop into a governing body. What that means is, let's say, for example, you play 4 or 5 years, say in football, hockey, whatever, or even cricket, but now you want to become a professional. So what SASTA will do is they'll get you the coaching, they'll pay for your training. If you want to be a pro, why not? SASTA would be that organization. Now, with newcomers, children coming in, we have Kids Play Foundation. Right? Through Kids Play Foundation, what we do is we work with kids from ages from 4 to 17 to keep them away from drugs, gangs, and violence. And through there, we've been keeping them involved in sports, where all our events for kids play is free, right? And we built that platform where a lot of the professional teams have partnered up with us too, to build that nice market for the South Asians, not just only South Asians, any youth that wants to look for an opportunity, right? That's also opening up work with the Siksika Nation. And if you look at this, where did all these skills come from? Remember when I said when I was 12 years old, playing football? You're seeing it a lot later years now too.
Yeah. Very interesting. I've looked up some of the work that you guys have done with the Kids Play Foundation. It is pretty impressive. Question about the Siksika Nation, because you mentioned that briefly. When I was chatting with you, we were talking about some of the initiatives you have in the pipeline with the Siksika First Nation and some of our Northeast Bhangra team members. Tell us more about it. What do you have in the works? What can we expect?
Well, I like pushing boundaries and breaking barriers. I was invited to a Siksika powwow just this last month, and I saw a lot of colorful things. And I asked the chief, would you be interested in doing a cultural collaboration? And he says, what does that look like? So I had to take collages to make him look at it and stuff like that. And then from there, I shared with him and I said, would you be interested if we're able to get the funding for this? They said, yeah. So what we want to do is we want to do a cross-cultural, like where the Bhangra team will come with us to the Siksika Nation. And they will do a Bhangra. And then from there, they will teach the indigenous what every move is and what it means and why we do it. And then in return, what they would do is they would feed us indigenous food at Siksika Nation. Then in return, we reverse it. We would invite them over to the Northeast. And they would do their dance. They would explain what their dance is, why they do it. And then we would feed them Indian food.
Very interesting. So just to pick up your thought process behind it, why do you think there was a need to sort of do a cross collaboration in cultures?
A lot of people ask me, Coach, why not other cultures? I said, I wanted to have a starting foundation first. I look at it this way. Sikhs are warriors, or the indigenous are hunters. Sikhs have been treated badly, so have the indigenous. So how can we shed a positive light onto everything moving forward? Meaning that bring everything to the forefront. You know, how cool would it be to go into heritage, culture, and dance and history? And knowing that we're the pioneers of doing something that doesn't happen Question for you: why do communities stay in the Northeast? Why do the Indigenous need to stay on the reserves?
They like to stay with their own kind.
Exactly.
And
Right?
there's that essence of trust and being with the people that you understand. So in that respect, I think personally, I think it's a very, very good initiative because I can speak from personal experience. I was somebody who came to Canada as an international student, and when you're here, I don't think there's a proper education system where they tell you about the First Nations people off the land or teach you about their culture and their ways of life. So I think it's very good that you guys are taking that initiative on, is to bring that awareness amongst our society and amongst our people. So yeah, kudos to you and the team on that piece. I look forward to that. Let's switch gears there. You have recently launched a book, The Man Behind. I'm very interested to know, how did the idea of the book came about, and what is the book about?
The book is called The Man Behind Coach Harp. Where did this come from? This is 35 years. What I used to do is, you know how they say to musicians, when you have a thought, have an idea, record it?
Yeah.
Well, I recorded stuff since 2009. Like a lot of the sayings that I have, they're original sayings. Because you don't know when you'll be able to use all that stuff that you have. Because we have lots of knowledge. So how do you record it? Because if you don't record it, you're going to lose it and you forget it. That idea came upon me is I realized I've been to some functions before where I don't introduce myself as Coach Harp. I introduce myself as Harpo Sandhu. I get treated differently. So, meaning I said one time, I'm Harpo Sandhu with my cousins. They said, here's a seat, grab a seat. The show will start soon. And my cousin says, tell them who you are. I said, why? Why do you got to tell somebody who you are? Right? I said, okay, fine. I said, I'm Coach Harp. The whole tone of the conversation was totally different. So what I've learned is when you build, so Coach Harp is a brand that I built. But who is behind Coach Harp? When you build a brand so big, so what I wanted to do was I really wanted to excel some of the skills that Harpo Sandhu has. He's not just Coach Harp. There's many facets to him. So that's one of the reasons. And I also wanted to share the journey. I'm an immigrant coming to Canada, some of the struggles that you deal with, because what we wanted to do was we wanted to say, hi, this is Coach Harp. But go back 40 years. Yes, there is another book coming out in about 2 years. Okay, hi, I'm Coach Harp. Start the present. How powerful is the mind to think all this in the head? How do you initiate a lot of the stuff? Right? The whole drive was to send a very strong message out there. The 12 virtues of Coach Harp. Right? Mm-hmm. Through this journey, I was told your book's not going to do well. You're going to go into a lot of obstacles, stuff like that. But remember this, you're going to have a lot of naysayers. You're going to have a lot of haters. Oh, trust me, I have lots of haters. I have people that don't follow me, but yet I know they are checking my stuff out because there's ways to find certain things out. But you know what? The way I like it is, if you can't do it, don't make the other person feel bad. Support them. Because when it comes to your time, the same person will support you. So how do we change that as human beings? Where do we forget not to care about each other? All right? We live in such a different world these days that sometimes you even forget. Have you ever heard this word saying you will alienate yourself? If you've been alienated all through your life?
Yep.
The biggest thing is you don't want to lose the connection between your mind and your heart. So I do a lot of things, not just to push myself. I do a lot of things to push others. Say, hey, if I could do it, you could do it too, kind of attitude. I want to encourage more. I want more. Like even for yourself, when you mentioned to me that you're doing a podcast, how was I with you? Let's go. Let's see what we can do here. Because just because one person has done it there's more room for others to be there too. I want to build a community where we're not afraid to share our contacts, where we're not afraid to work with each other, and we're not afraid to have a common goal. Now, do you notice this again? Goes back to when I was 12 years old again. But we live in such a world, it's a me world. I'm only going to help you if it's going to benefit me. How long will that go? Till you burn all your bridges? Now, become a servant leader, is it not taught in our culture or every culture? Give without giving. And the universe will give you lots in return. Right? It's called a boomerang effect. Some people don't want to put in, there's givers and takers. Yes, we live in a world of a lot of takers. But yes, there are also a lot of givers too. Givers get a lot in abundance.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that. And you were absolutely spot on, as when we had our first conversation, if anything, you motivated me more to continue with this platform, right? And really just lead by example. Question for you. You've seen it through football. It's a very hard schedule. You're working right now in the community service. There's all kinds of scenarios you encounter, the good, the bad. How do you go about your day in terms of how do you effectively manage your time? How do you prioritize your day? What does your schedule look like? Are there certain techniques you incorporate in the day, whether that's meditation, whether that's workout, that makes you make sure that you're checking off all the boxes? Because I think a lot of time that piece is missed. We have an agenda, but we don't have a game plan as to how we're going to get there. So what do you do in your day to kind of make sure that you are, giving it your all?
Well, one of the things I've been doing all my life is the gym is my second home. Do cardio. I'm always, when I'm not at work, I'm at the gym. Why? Because I need to push my mind. You get to a certain point where your own body will release natural endorphins. So you get a natural high. Right? Once you have a clear mind, you're able to attack your day. Sometimes there's scenarios with me, I'm on the phone from 8 a.m. to 10 at night because my phone won't stop. There's people who've been trying to get hold of me for 2 months. So how do you prioritize what's important? And the biggest thing is you need to keep your mind safe. Money you can always make, correct?
Absolutely.
Time is something you never get back. What about energy? When you're when you're very happy with the people that you're around, the organization you're working, that's it. That's all you need. You need to get 20, 30, 40 other organizations. Because what happens is the quality of the work suffers. You really need to define yourself, which direction you're going. And I always ask this to my leaders that we have with Kids Play. Why are you part of Kids Play? What do you want to get out of Kids Play? Or just general in life, what do you want to get out? Right? Because the thing is, we go to meetings, right? And I even ask you this, what do you want to get out of our podcast? If you don't know, then we don't know. You got to have more of a clear definition of what you truly want. If you don't get the clarity, I use gym to get me that clarity pathway that I need to do to move forward. Because sometimes you get so much stuff happening to you. I got family, I got work, Kids Play, and then SASTA, and then also with my book, I got to do book signing, stuff like that. People say, how do you manage your time? Mm-hmm. Everyone says to me, are you busy? You know what my question is? I'm never busy. Because you become a master time management of your time. Because some things in life, certain things don't go according to plan. But you got to have a thing called an audible. You know what an audible is? I'll give you an example in a football game. Let's say, for example, you're about to run a play, but the defense already knows what your move is going to be, your next play is going to be. You call an audible You switch up the play while you're being there. You got to be able to go with the flow. So many people get hard on themselves because they're really like stuck on certain patterns. Adapt, change. What you did about an hour ago is going to be really different after our conversation right now. So are you willing to block that thought process? Are you willing to really take on that thought process? Everything happens is from you. But people don't realize that. People always are looking for outward. You know what I tell people? Instead of being lost in this world looking for stuff out there to figure out what you are, what your identity is, you know what all the answers are? Look inwards. And you know when you hear people saying we point fingers? Imagine you point a finger at somebody. There's 5 fingers pointing back at you. And if you just look at the way how I speak, you learn, get to a certain point in life, you get calm because can I say this? You could edit this after. You could, you learn how to block out the bullshit. That's it.
Yeah, it's a very valid point, because to your point, there's just so much that goes on. It's so easy to get overwhelmed with all these priorities if you don't, again, to your point, have a clear distinction in your mind of what really matters to you, right? Because you can't possibly do it all at one given time. So you really have to prioritize and execute. So, yeah, really appreciate your 2 words in there. I just want to dial back a little bit here. When you were young, you said that you immigrated here from India at a very young age, and you had hard time sort of integrating into the society. There was somewhere I was reading which mentioned an incident, and you can correct me on it, that at the age of 12 in school, you experienced bullying, which then led you to take up football. I just want to kind of talk about that bullying aspect in terms of, has that changed what it was 40 years to now, what it is right now in your experience? And then B, sort of, how did you learn to fight that and then, still get over that and didn't let it bog you down in a way? Talk to us a bit more about that.
Bullying, when I was only 12, you're so open to many things. And you think these people have power over you because they say certain things. You would buy into it. And then the thought would sit in your head, and then it would keep going backwards. And then you start self-doubting yourself, stuff like that. And through growing up, I've dealt with that, and I've also dealt with racism too. Sometimes, yeah, as a young teenager, you're angry. You get involved with some of the activities. But what ends up happening is, it's your emotion when you're younger. You don't have all the mechanisms to cope with it. So it did spiral backwards a little bit, but then I realized I need to show up to practice, That's how I took care of that situation. And then what happened is the more tools and skills you get in life, it becomes easier. Then one of the things is I'm noticing the bullying these days compared to when I was being bullied, whole different level. We're talking about kids committing suicide. Now, come on, give me a break now. Something has gone wrong.
And what do you think that something is?
That purely has to do with influence, has to do with who their role models are. I'm probably going to get put on fire on this one. A lot of it has to do with the house. If the child is, why did the child become a bully in the first place? Remember, when a baby is born, there's no 1 or 2 sides. The circumstance, the condition, the environment. We both could be born the same day. It's your environment, circumstance, and the conditions will condition you a certain way compared to the other guy. Did you know at the age of 4 years old, the child's already conditioned? At the age of 8, you already developed something which is going to self-destruct? So a lot of people don't realize that, yeah, we'll get into the child's life when they're teenagers. No, what did you do between the ages from 0 to 4? That's where they pick up a lot of the stuff. Then when they get from 13, 12, let's say about 13 till 18, now guess what? Everything you say is going to go against the grain. Now you're hoping for that one little light of hope to change that mind thought. Right? That's why I'm a big advocate. Be careful with what you say and what you do. Because I read a book one time. You keep speaking it for a while, 6 months later, it will formulate in your real life. That's how powerful thoughts are, whether they're good or bad.
Absolutely. And yeah, I've read that topic there too, where they talk about, by the age of 4, the kids are pretty much formed in their own ways, which is very interesting because we don't talk enough about that particular topic and we don't pay attention to that particular piece in there. So it's very cool that you bring that up. Question for you, and this is in terms of just learning as to how you cope with it. So you do a lot of motivational speeches and you talk to a lot of audiences at different stages, whether that's in front of TV or on a stage or in front of large groups. How do you prepare yourself before you go on a stage to perform? Because I feel a lot of times, whether that's in sports, whether that's in any field, a lot of people have that fear of not sort of making themselves public. Are there any particular practices that you have in place that you do before you get on a stage or before you start talking to a big crowd? What does that look like?
Well, let's go back a little bit further here. A certain part of my life, I was broken, meaning that my mindset wasn't correct. I spent $20,000 to fix this. I spent $20,000 to fix this. I read 30 to 50 books to reinvent the new. From there, what did I learn? This is going to lead into the question you ask. How vulnerable are you willing to get? Do you care what people say? Or you have your mind made up, you're going to do it regardless of what people are going to say and what others are going to talk about? Because at the end of the day is you have to, there's a thing called, what's the word? There's a thing called rock bottom.
Mm-hmm.
And do you know there's another level? It's called rising from the phoenix. Meet those people. They got to recreate themselves completely. So many things will happen in your life. People say we got rock bottom. Okay, that's cool. Everybody hits rock bottom. There's another layer called rising from the phoenix. Read up what that means. Some of those people are one of the most powerful people in the world because they just gave rebirth to themselves of who they were before and who they are now. That's what I had to do with my life. And that is where you become authentic. But guess what? When you become authentic, you can get a lot of haters because you won't go past that point. So they'll bash on you.
Interesting. Just to confirm for my own self, and I'll read over it. When we're talking about rising from the phoenix, is that rising from the ashes in a way? Am I correct in assuming that?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. Perfect. So now moving into the future, what is your vision for yourself and for the society? What does that look like?
My vision has always been the same. I want to build a legacy. I said I want to replace that. We want to build a legacy. Leave a better place behind for the next generation. I'm very passionate with the work I do with the youth because they're not as jaded as much as the adults. And you want to look at results? Look what Kids Play has done. Look what Coach Harp has done. And look at the people we are surrounding ourselves with. What have they done? You got to become a game changer. So at the end of the day, I encourage something that's taken away from us. We're not supposed to think. Well, guess what? I'm a thought leader. I encourage thought leaders to step up and truly find your true identity. If you live in the world we live in today, you become nothing. Because we got to be careful with what we say, got to be careful what we do, we've got to be careful who we offend, stuff like that. But we live in such a world right now, we got to be very self-aware of the time we live on these days. How are you going to make an impact? There's two things you can do. You can make an impact, or you can leave a mark, or you can leave a scar. Which one do you want to do? And you know there's people in both areas in life.
Absolutely. Yeah, that hits hard, if you want to leave a mark or if you want to leave a scar. Beautiful. So tell us more in terms of, so if somebody wants to join these initiatives that you guys are working on, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, what is the process for somebody to do that? How do they get in touch with you? How do they become a part of all these initiatives that you guys have in place and volunteer and support these causes?
Well, the few things is we're always looking for volunteers. With the volunteers, there's no age limit. You can be anywhere from 12 years old to 60 if you want. But the biggest thing is we're looking for people who are humble enough, got to be careful here, to drop the ego, to drop the pride, to be part of our events we do. Because this is what we tell our youth leaders. It's getting very tough for a lot of people, right? But why are we getting bigger and bigger events? You want to be attractive to authentic people. So if people want to get involved with Kids Play, we have a social media platform. Just go to Kids Play Foundation Calgary. We're on Facebook. We also have an Instagram account. Just message, reach out, see you want to volunteer. We do a lot of events. A lot of the events are free for the kids. We are working on a few events right now. We'll have an event on August 20th, which the postage is being made right now, which will be the Kids Play, Calgary Stampeders, and Coach Harp second annual football camp over at McMahon Stadium from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Has that ever been done before? Then the next one we're doing is, remember, South Asians, newcomers. We welcome you guys all, because here's a great opportunity to really, we're providing a service where we really want you guys, without you guys' participation, it's not going to be successful. I've also reached out to Siksika Nation. They partner up with us with this event too, right? And then we have one on August 26th, which is a multi-sports day event over at Rorty Park, where we're going to do a lot of field sports. I'm in the process of getting some alumni stamps out there, maybe some current players. I'm also in the process of trying to feel the flames out there too, and feel the surge. Now, these are your professional elements. See what we have done? We're community leaders who are teaming up with proper mindset businesses with professionals. Common denominator, youth leadership.
Very, very impressive. And I think it's a great opportunity for the new families that have migrated to Canada, who have kids, or kids in general who want to participate and be a part of the community. Because it's such a great opportunity to learn the sport and be a part of the community. And I remember I was reading about it. I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, that the Stampeders are also starting a football night in Punjabi here shortly. So I believe, initiatives like that would be really helpful for the community as well, because the same happened when Hockey Night in Punjabi started. All these people who weren't connecting to the sport of hockey then could connect to the sport of hockey. And I think the same opportunity would now be available for these people to connect with the sport of football, which is beautiful.
You're 100% right. They have started with, It's Calgary Stampeders Punjabi TV.
Correct.
And they're going to team up with us too. Remember, it's not about I. It's about we, family, and how we're going to make an impact. Right now, you tell me this. Why are the Stampeders taking a big interest in kids play? Why are the Surge taking an interest in kids play? Why are the Flames taking an interest? The list goes on and on. You know why? Because, remember what I said? Action equals results. It goes back to, again, how do you come in your daily life? What do you do? How do you block out? There's a thing called white noise. The moment you learn how to block out the white noise, more clarity will come to you. And that's where you start taking a lot of action. Yes, there'll be a lot of times where you do a lot of self-talk. Yeah, I do a lot of self-talk myself. Who's your best friend? You. Build that relationship first.
Perfect. I couldn't have said it better. It's really beautiful conversation we're having, and I feel like I can keep going, but just in spirit of time, I know we have to wrap up here. We have a final segment, which is a quick rapid fire. Before we get started on that, I just wanted to open the floor to you. Is there a final message you want anybody who's listening to this show to take away home? What would that be?
I will say this. I've been on a radio station, a TV show. I'll say it in Punjabi, I'll say it in English. Rapid fire. We ਆਪਣੇ ਨਿਆਣੇ 12 ਤੱਕ 18 ਤੱਕ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਆਪਾਂ ਕੰਮ ਤੇ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਆ ਆਪਣੇ ਨਿਆਣੇ ਕੋਲ ਟੇਕ ਓਵਰ ਕਰਦੇ ਆ ਆਪਾਂ parents ਮਿਲ ਕੇ ਆਪਾਂ kids play ਨਹੀਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ opportunity ਦਿੰਦੇ ਆ ਹੁਣ ਆਪਾਂ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ participation ਮੰਗਦੇ ਆ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪਣੇ ਨਿਆਣੇ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਆਓ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇੰਨੀ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ participation ਦੇਵੋ sports ਵਿੱਚ ਫਿਰ ਆਪਾਂ heritage ਵਿੱਚ culture bet, music bet jailde. One big family, melke apa sam kuch kam kar sakde hai. Stamps in it hon apna opportunity de make mass stadium October binu 4 baje to 5 baje nane to lage poster sadi website te social media maybe this week out there. Now in return, what we want to do is we want to get everyone to really think about what community means and what servant leadership is. How do we become an active parent in our child's life? And what are we doing to make that happen? Right? And I really want you to become really active in your child's life. A lot of our programs are free for the kids. So what's stopping you guys? Money? Time? Now this is your professional team that's coming together with Kids Play. So let's show them love by getting lots of kids to come to our event, participate, ask questions, reach out. And also, I would love to see you guys at my book signing over at August 5th at Chinook from 12 to 4. Then I'm also going to be August 13th at Cross Irons from 12 to 4. Apna Punjabi book likhiye. Aap support kariye. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you. I'll echo the same. जिन्हें भी listeners कोई सुन रहे हैं, जो कोई family वाले ने, जिन्हां ਨੂੰ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਲਈ activities ਚਾਹੀਦੀਆਂ ਨੇ, please ਜ਼ਰੂਰ check out ਕਰੋ Kids Play Foundation. Please check out ਕਰੋ initiatives. ਬਹੁਤ ਹੀ ਵਧੀਆ opportunity ਹੈ ਤੁਹਾਡੀ family ਲਈ, ਤੁਹਾਡੇ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਲਈ, to interact with community, to take up sports. So please check that out. And then for those who live in Calgary, today August 5th to August 13th, book signings te ja sakde hai, and you can meet the coach in person. So please get out of your house and go do that. Make the most of it. Thanks for that, Coach. Just the last segment here. I'll do a quick rapid fire. Just one-liner answers and no explanation needed. You ready?
Yes.
Awesome. What is the best book you've been gifted, or the book that you like to gift the most?
Hung by the Tongue.
And who is that by?
You guys find it on Amazon. I can't remember. I read it when I was 19 years old. That's what taught me what you speak, what you think is what comes reality. Yes, I read it. I read it when I was 19 years old.
That's beautiful. I'll be sure to check that out. Thank you. What purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life in the last 6 months?
Just the love we're getting from the community.
Beautiful. Can't put a price to that. Awesome. Next question. If you could have a billboard that could be shown to the entire world, what would you like to write on it? What would be your message?
Lead with your heart, follow your passion, and feel your potential of who you're meant to be.
Awesome. Thank you. What advice would you give to a smart, driven college student about to enter the real world?
Be patient, and virtue of life is patience, and really ask lots of questions. And there's a lot of support out there. Just got to find the right people that would, and also find yourself a mentor too.
That's perfect. What is a bad advice that you see people giving out in your profession or around you?
They say stuff, but yet they don't actually do themselves.